Hi, I am so honored to be sharing my story as part of this event. I've been coming to a book that changed my life from the very beginning when I was a Literacy Works board member, and it was a new idea and we were all really excited about it, but unsure about how it was going to go. And here we are, at least a decade later, and it's now a signature Literacy Works event that everybody looks forward to every year, including me. And it's one of the things that I miss most about living in Chicago. And while the event has always prompted me to think about what are the books that changed my life, I never actually had to choose until now. And I got to tell you, the pressure is stifling. And I keep coming up against all the stuff that I'm sure people will judge me for. So I'm hard pressed to come up with books that make me seem smart, well read, cultured, because that, in fact, is my secret dream. I would want to be seen as brilliant, as saying things that are deeply profound and affecting. But that is not me. I am just a girl who has always been curious, you might even say nosy, about life and living and how people choose to be in the world. So I keep coming back to this one book, Steffi Can't Come Out to Play. This is Steffi, this is Favor behind her, and I'll tell you all about him. It's by Fran Eric, written in 1978, and there's a quote here that says, "I would rather please my favor than wash and clean and cook whatever favor wants." So I read this book when I was about 13 years old. It's about 14-year-old Steffi who runs away from her small town Pennsylvania home to New York City, where I happen to live now in historic Harlem. Woo woo. But Steffi was running away from nothing, mind you, at least from my perspective. She came from a loving, stable, middle-class home with her two married parents and a younger sister who adored her. But she was bored with her life there and what she imagined for her future. And she wanted to be a model, and where else to be a model but New York City, just a short train ride away. So as soon as, or bus ride in this case, so as soon as Steffi got off the bus at Port Authority, she was approached by this guy, Favor, who was donning a feathered fedora and a fur coat and gold chains draping around his neck. A white dude, an older white dude. So not black like Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch, for those of you who remember that, or Goldie from the Mac. If you know, you know. So Favor promised to take care of her, but ultimately, I think we all know what happened. He turned her out. So within a couple of weeks, Steffi was Favor's bottom bitch in his stable of teen prostitutes. And the book didn't use that language, of course, it was YA, but that's what it was. And it was so easy. And that's why Steffi was the train wreck that I could not look away from. I was so offended, deeply offended by her victimhood and her naivete and her infinite willingness to do whatever Favor told her to do. So I don't know if that was the beginning of my feminist awakening, or if I brought some sort of emergent feminist lens to my reading of the book. I'd always had a resistance to the girly girl trope. So when I was a kid, I climbed trees, I'd sit high up in the branches, looking out into the world. I would walk the chain link fence around the perimeter of the duplex that we rented in Columbus, Ohio, like it was a tightrope. And this was really fun. I would scale the school buildings behind us, and I would jump off of the roofs onto the dumpsters below, playing cops and robbers, cops and robbers with the kids from my neighborhood. I did have more than my share of Barbie dolls, but that was because I loved creating grown-up worlds for her and her friends and Ken and all of them that more aptly reflected reality. So I would chop off their hair, I would color their lips in with red marker, and then I would stick broken toothpicks into their mouths with the ends burned off like cigarettes. So on long summer days when I was fraught with boredom there in Columbus, Ohio, I would sit at the apex of this doghouse that we had in our backyard for our Lassie lookalike collie, Sheba. And I would watch the Little League football players practice in the field behind us. They would be clacking their wobbly little helmets and their oversized shoulder pads in all of their budding prepubescent masculinity. I was, on the one hand, jealous because I knew that I would never be able to play with them in that way. But on the other hand, I also hope that they might notice me because, you know, boys. So I never really grew out of that resistance. I was always actively constructing my sense of gender identity with purpose and intentionality. I stopped wearing skirts until about my junior year in high school. I almost never wore makeup. I still don't really. I used to break dance and pop lock when I was in my teens in the 80s, and I always only wanted to battle the boys. And I watched football on TV and I went to live games by myself. I cut my hair into a pixie haircut when I was in college. In graduate school, I studied gender stereotyping. And later, when I got married, I chose not to have a wedding or to wear a ring. But I've been thinking, as I reflect on all of this now, and I wonder, might I have missed Fran Eric's point? What if Steffi is an allegory like Hawthorne's Scarlet Letter? What if Favor is just a glaringly obvious caricature of that represents all the ways in which girls are drawn away from innocence and safety and love, yielding blindly to womanhood in ways that are defined for us already and not on our own terms. So I don't know, I wonder maybe Steffi and I are more alike than I ever gave her credit for. And that's why I keep coming back to her. Thank you. All right, that's it.